Welcome to the weekly update for July 28th, 2017. We had one official trade alert for the week, which I want to briefly go over here. And then I want to also go over a couple other things in the market right now that I think that everybody should be aware of, especially because I've been telling you these are levels that we're going to watch. As far as the rest of the levels and things I'm saying right now, we will go over that on Monday night in the webinar. But New Zealand CAD, this is a trade setup that I did call right down in this region right here. I think the official, I'd have to bring it up here. The official entry point on this one was, let's see here. Entry was 92.90 or lower, which was right here. It dropped as low as 92.65 here. So you could have got a bit better pricing than me. And then, of course, the stop loss was around 100 pips, which was right down in here just below this low. The reason why I like this trade, first of all, you had a significant run down here. You can see we were trying to attack the coral. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We finally broke above the coral, created a new swing high right here. So this becomes a structure level down here. The other thing I want to mention too, this is in the structure course. We have a bit of a triple bottom type trade down here. The one thing that I mentioned about these structured trades like this, they are really nice when you have a higher swing low or a double bottom in before the swing up and then the pullback. Now if this would have created a low here, came up here, came down lower, and then bounced away up here, sure, you do have a new set of buyers in the market, but you've still got a new set of sellers down here too. So that's not a really attractive look for me, but in this case, we did create a slightly higher swing high, or swing low, and a higher swing high. So this becomes very attractive to me. The other thing that made the trade really attractive to me is going to be the fact that we had this nice push up right here. If I grab my crosshairs here, the low was right here, the high was here. 6 bars to create that base right there. And then on the way down, it actually took 16 bars. So as I always teach, the slow retracements back are much more likely to create a desired reaction than what would be if it crashed down to the bottom here. If this was crashing to the low, I would not have been nearly as interested, but this was coming down slowly, and this was getting very overdone. You can see the low here, THV low, low here, THV low. THV was much lower here than what it was right here on the last swing low. So this was creating what's called a hidden divergence as well. So you had a break of the trend line, you had a break of the coral, higher swing low, higher swing high, you had hidden divergence here, slow pullback after a strong push up. Even more significant is the daily time frame. Notice what's happening here. We did kind of break the upper band, but we weren't able to get a solid close. We began to come back down, which is where my entry was, right down in here, this area right here. The one thing I want to note about this that you need to see is the fact that on the daily, which is the higher time frame, we were crossed above on THV and blue. So there was major divergence right down here as we turned blue and was pulling back, but we had crossed up and we're headed up. And even as price was falling, as we fell into these levels right here, became really overdone down here. On the daily time frame, you can see we were not dropping, we were not pulling back on the THV at all. This is showing us there is massive momentum on the daily chart. And again, like I said, we were getting very overdone on the 4-hour chart. Everything about the trade was very nice. Not really anything that I could find on this trade that I didn't like. The only concern, again, was we were going into London, and my fear was maybe we'd spike the low, which does happen sometimes, but it didn't happen, which is nice. Looking at this on the weekly time frame, you can see that we had a high here, push down, push up, double bottom, created a new swing high up here from this last level. So this becomes a little bit of structure down in this region here. Again, this is another reason why I said maybe I want to get into this, because this thing is going to be structured even on the weekly time frame down here. So we should see some kind of bounce, which we have seen. My targets on this were actually the coral to the upper band. We did hit the coral. I was hoping for the upper band. Did not get it. Then we came crashing back down, and we got out the rest of it for a 60 pip win. The first, let's see, I called the first, I said take a quarter off at 87 pips, and then I said take another quarter of your trade off at 120 pips, nearly 120 pips it says, and then the last we had a break-even stop at 60 pips, which we got stopped out for. So half was 60, half was anywhere from 87 to 120 pips. So overall a good trade here, but I was hoping for a touch of the upper band, but so far the market is not having it. Also, I want to bring your attention to this right here. There was a bit of a trend line right here. Just ignore this big wick right here. That seems to be where the market stopped. It had trend line resistance up here, had the coral resistance. Also note what is happening. We are crossing down on the THV, and as we're pushing up here, or attempting to push up, THV is still dropping red, crossing down. So there's a lot of negative momentum right now on the weekly chart on the New Zealand CAD. The other thing I want to note is this right here. You have a nice little trend line here, touch here. Didn't quite make it here. Create like a head and shoulders on the trend line right here, and then we've plowed through it right here. Now we're coming back up to retest it. So in this we have a lower swing high from up here. So from what I can see on the weekly chart, this does not look good. So either the either the CAD is going to create a lot of strength, which is going to push the USD CAD up, the USD CAD down, along with the other CAD pairs, or New Zealand is getting ready to roll over. And again, on the monthly chart, this is even more morbid looking. You can see that this consolidation sideways here, THV is red, dropping and crossing down on the monthly as well. So it really wouldn't surprise me if this thing headed down further. We have a bit of a trend line. I guess you could probably draw it like that. We may find some support down here, but if this continues to consolidate sideways without pushing down, this becomes a consolidation at a head and shoulders neckline high, and this would break out to the upside in a really serious manner. I'm not sure that's going to happen. If I zoom out here, you can see these are really historic highs over here. This is all the further back I can go on the broker, but this is the high from 1996, 97, and we've hit it once, twice, 3, 4. Now we're consolidating. So the monthly does look quite bearish. You've got divergence here, and you've got THV dropping too. So this does look pretty ugly, which means the New Zealand dollar may be getting ready to come down. We'll see here. New Zealand dollar, again, we are up at the coral. This thing should be dropping, but I am not trying to take a trade on this. So we'll see what happens on the New Zealand dollar. But that's the New Zealand CAD trade. Again, the other thing I want to show you too on the New Zealand CAD trade is going to be where did this thing stop at. Take a look at the 4-hour time frame here. You have a push up here, pull back, another push up. Notice the higher swing high. So this becomes structure down here, which is where we got in. We created another swing high over here. So the last set of buyers, which was down here that pushed prices to new highs, this became a lot of structure down here, this whole zone here. So we did come into this area right here with the coral. You could probably make a case for a bit of a trend line up in here too. Didn't quite hit the trend line though, came a few pips shy of that. But if you pull up the daily chart, you can see we came down to the lower band. We did have a solid cross above the upper band here. So this was a first touch. So this was actually a pretty decent level to get into the market if you were looking to go long down here. Again, we did stop out for 60 pips because my fear was this thing was getting ready to crash here. So you just never know. So definitely we didn't want to put ourselves in a position where we were up 120 pips and then exited for absolutely nothing on half of the position. So, but if this continues to consolidate slowly up like it is doing into this coral right here, this thing could be getting ready to roll over again. You have the coral here. You've got the weekly coral up here in the upper band on the weekly as well, and the monthly looks pretty ugly too. So definitely not looking to take another long position on this. We are seeing a slow bounce right now. But that's the New Zealand CAD trade. The other thing I want to touch on really quickly too are the Swissy pairs. If you're watching the markups page on Facebook for the Signals group, you are going to know that I have a potential sell up here on the Odd Frank. This is a CRT on the daily time frame. Notice we did create a lower swing low down here as well. Right here, here's the last low, another low here. So this becomes structure. So this is a structure CRT with a head and shoulders on the daily and max move. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We are 7 to 8 bars away. This should absolutely be coming crashing down here soon. But the scary thing about this trade setup over here is the momentum. I do not like taking CRTs where there is this kind of momentum. Again, let me show you this. If you take your crosshairs from here to the bottom, you're talking 87 bars to create this move. The retracement back up, 47 bars. It took half as much time for the market to rally back up to these highs as it did to create this. So this adds a lot of risk to the trade. So I have not called Odd Frank long, or excuse me, short. I have not called New Zealand Frank short, even though, again, we're in massive levels up here. And I have not called the, no, it's not the dollar Swissy, the CAD Frank. I have not called this short either. Again, we're 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.5 bars away. Major top over here, weekly time frame. You can see it up here. This should be coming down, but again, you are seeing incredible amounts of momentum pushing into these levels. That becomes very, very dangerous. So not really a huge fan because of the momentum. Again, if you were to get your crosshairs, this move here to create the bottom was 94 bars. And the move back up, 47. Literally half as long to go back up. So this is not the kind of momentum I want to see on a short. Definitely not. If anything, because of this momentum, we may get a small pullback and then perhaps a breakup. We'll see what happens. But that'd be what I'm thinking here. Right now, we are pulling back. This is the Sunday night open here. We are open right now. So the markets are trying to retrace a little bit. But what I would like to see is maybe some kind of top being formed up here, and then maybe I can go in. But right now, the 4-hour time frame does look a little weak up here. Looks like it's getting ready to come back down. But like I said, there's tremendous amounts of momentum, and I do not like. This is like catching a falling knife. I'm sure you've heard that term before, but it's when the market's crashing. You don't really want to catch a crash. Same kind of idea right here. This time it's the opposite way though, but not really a fan of catching moves like this. So I would like to see some kind of top being formed. These have been in the markups page as potential sells, but I was not expecting this kind of move into resistance. This is really crazy, but nonetheless, I still really like the idea of Odd Frank short, and I also like the idea of New Zealand Frank short. I think these are good potentials, but again, the move up is really dramatic, and that's really scary to try to catch a top. So I would like to see some kind of weakness coming in here before I try to go ahead and do a short position. And by the way, we've had a very solid close above the upper band, so this right here is going to be a lot of support should we come back down into it. So I have a feeling by the time this tries to roll over, these lines are going to be much higher though, so it's really going to get in the way of a potential reward on this. So what I may look for is a touch of the lower band and then a slow retracement back up, and then we may consider a short for a rollover. But I do not want to catch moves like this. Yes, we're really far away, but we are in a market that is absolutely crazy right now, and so I don't really want to risk taking crappy setups. So what I would like to see is when we move into levels, I want to see pullbacks along the way, not big euphoric moves, because if you get pullbacks along the way, that shows there are already sellers showing up or buyers in whatever case. There's already sellers or buyers showing up the opposite direction, and they could be getting ready to take over. Whereas this is just massive buying taking place right now. So right now I'm kind of shying away from some of the Swissy pairs, but we will go over these and everything else in much more detail in the webinar on Monday night. But this has been your weekly wrap-up for July 28th, 2017.